Lord, may we get over ourselves so that we may see you, hear you, and be more like you. You may be seated. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you, a Baptist at that. Many greetings from warm Dallas, Texas, to you all. In her work, Dreams, Olive Schreiner tells the story of a woman coming out of a desert and meeting an old man named Reason. He sees her at the banks, confused, wondering what's going on. He goes up to her, meets her, and asks her what she wanted. She said, I'm seeking the land of freedom. And he said, it's right before you. And she looks deeply and says, I cannot see it. I only see this dark river. He says, keep looking. And there, over, you'll see trees, hills. She says, I faintly see it, but how do I get there? He said, to get to the land of freedom, there's only one way. Down the banks of labor, through the water of suffering. There is no other way. The water is deep and the floor is worn. Some have tried to cross it, but most have failed. And in her determination to cross, the old man stops her and says, you must take off the garments that weighed you down in the desert. So she takes off the mantle of opinions. She takes off this girdle and moss begin to come out. She takes off the shoes of dependence and puts on a suit of truth. And thinking she's ready, she begins to wade into the water, and the man says, wait. A couple other things. Have you ever seen how the locusts cross a stream? First one comes down to the water edge and is swept away. And then another comes and they begin to build a bridge and they walk upon each other, moving and crossing. One day we people will recognize our bodies, our lives, our work will be to build a bridge for the entire human race to walk across and get to the land of freedom, but we're not there. Then he says, lastly, before you go, when you get to the bank of freedom's edge, the hand of love will reach down and get you out the water and pull you up. This, my friends, the Israelites have found themselves pursuing the land of freedom. After a long exile in Babylon, and while in exile, the darkness hovered over all things, and the light refused to shine. The suffering penetrated all aspects of their life. They used to wait for liberation, but that desire faded away. They began to accept their situation because the God that they trusted, the God that they knew, was silent. In their minds, the Babylonian god Marduk captured and took control of Yahweh, and just like the Babylonians did them, and their concern was no longer liberation, but just survival. Will we live? Will we ever see our homes again? And for decades, the Israelites, the children of God, they continued not to hear God's voice, and their world was turned upside down. And now, released from this bondage to go back to Jerusalem, to their homes, which may or may not be there. They go down the banks of labor in the streams of suffering. But in their walk, in their getting there, not all were able to take off clothes of opinions and dependence of Babylon. And as they came to freedom's edge, a hand reached down to these Israelites to pick them up, a hand that they did not recognize. And because of that, they seemed afraid to grab it, let alone replicate it. And the Almighty is disturbed by the people's ignorance that they do not see me, they do not know me. Though I was silent, I was with them, though I was there all alone. And this is the part we are in 2nd Isaiah. The prophet pleads and invites the people to reflect on the understanding of God. The God that brought them together into relationship. Yes, a God that was with them while their reality was shaken and disturbed. And the prophet asks questions for them to consider. And yet in this whole flowing message of Isaiah 40, which is so beautiful, there's this picture painted of a God who is creative and constantly bringing life and new life at that. But I just imagine the people saying, wait a minute, hold up, God. We've been in exile, suffering all this time, hoping to hear your voice, hoping that you would liberate us, hoping that you would do something. We've been here with family members dead, homes lost, wars under the rule of kings, and you're talking about grasshoppers? And us being like them? How is this supposed to resolve all of the years? But there's something intriguing about the text. The usage of these questions constantly repeated in the passage is not just that the people are mad and hurt, but they really have forgotten. Have you not known? Have you not heard? It's not just a reference to God, but even a reference to who the people were before. My friends, if I was back home, I would say, y'all, have we too forgotten what the hand of love looks like and how to extend it? We too are people who have spiritual amnesia. And here's the thing about spiritual forgetfulness. When we forget who God is and has been, we forget who we are. The crisis of the exile caused the people to forget their own narrative, the story of God's attentiveness and dependability, the story of God's love for Israel. For because they have forgotten, they are questioning the presence and power of God. They're questioning their own presence in this world. And if we just look around outside of our walls, the crisis of our day has us questioning and wondering what's going on, God. As bombs are thrown overhead through failed policies and systems of government, through scandals and abuse from the church, children too left hungry and devastated, people wondering, can anyone hear me, see me, know me? Injustice among climate, injustice among those who searching for safe places to land, for food to eat, for equitable education, crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, divided communities because we fail to realize hurts circle around hurts and hearts circle around hearts. Yes, our young are weary. Yes, our young are fainting, be wondering if my life will ever matter. If the dreams that I hold, will they come to fruition, or will they dry up like a raisin in a sun, or fester like a sore and then run, or stink like rotten meat? The crisis around us. it can render us to be forgetful. And the hardest part about this passage, at least for me, it's not all on God. I don't have enough time to jump into theology, and theories. I'll leave that for Peter and Dean and Zach and others. But we've done a good job of making a mess of this world. And I would have lost a little bit of hope if I didn't read a bit into the next chapter. It says, I, the Lord, will hold thy hand and walk with you into your future. The God who takes our hand, the God who we learn to retrust again, the God who reminds us there's a great work and call upon us to do to fix the messes we've created, to work toward building systems of justice and love and mercy and hope and community, a God that walks with us day by day as we rebuild and come together. This God holds our hand. The hand of love comes to us. Precious. In July of 1899, a little baby boy of color was born in Villarica, Georgia, about 40 miles west of Atlanta. He was one of 7 brothers and sisters. His father was a Baptist preacher, and his mother was the church organist. At 7, young Thomas Dorsey learned how to play the piano and the organ. He left in his teens to become a blues musician known as Georgia Tom. This took him through nightclub after nightclub, playing jazz and blues all over the South. He put together the Wildcats from Ma Rainey in 1925, where he met his wife, Nettie. She was the wardrobe mistress for Ma Rainey. And after suffering a deep illness in 1926, Thomas Dorsey returned back home and began to play music at Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church in Georgia. He was called to come and sing at a revival. He was 32. A fairly new husband. His wife, Nettie, was pregnant. And she was very close to having this child, but she told him, this is a big deal. Go. You go play at that revival. I will be okay. You just go. He gets in his car. He drives to the revival. He said they had church. The organ was playing. People were singing and dancing, and hour after hour they kept saying, keep on singing. And then all of a sudden, as he stayed on the piano playing, someone put a little note on the piano that said, your wife just died. He got in his car and rushed back home, later to find out that she had just given birth to a baby boy. Which next day, the baby boy passed away. He says that my life fell apart as I looked at them both in that casket, not having hope, feeling as if my life was in a bit of an exile, that no one could bring community and love to me, and neither could it be the God that I know. So he got back on his piano. In the midst of his grief, in the midst of his hurt, in the midst of his pain, he got on a piano and he began to play. which started him to write the song, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. A song of a suffering soul that's reaching back out to God. The song was sang often in the civil rights movement. It was Martin Luther King's favorite hymn, and he often invited Mahalia Jackson to come and sing this song to inspire the rallies. And it was King's last words that he looked at musician Ben Brock and said, Ben, I want you to sing Precious Lord tonight. And I want you to sing it real pretty and real good. And he turned his back, and the shot was fired. Through many crises within lives of individuals, within many crises within the world, with any crisis of the church, with any crisis of Christians, with all of these crises, whether it's been storied or sung to a tune, we've come to realize that we can only do this work hand in hand with God. Accepting the hand of love reaching out to us, taking it, and hopefully extending it to another. Marching and singing together through our exiles, through our crisis, through the work, through the rebuild. Precious Lord, take my hand. Lead me on, let me stand. I'm tired, I'm weak, I'm lone through the storm and through the night. Lead me on to the light. Precious Lord, take my hand. Amen.